So I'm David McGinley, and for 25 years I was a hospital chaplain in cancer, palliative, and intensive care. And working as a staff chaplain in that field, I was fully integrated with the healthcare team and attended rounds and everything, and really loved that work. When MAID came on the scene in 2016, I found the nature of that work really changed and resulted in a moral distress that was growing in me because of MAID, and I couldn't identify why. It took me a lot of years to find that language, and resulted in me leaving the profession, moving into private practice, and having some clarity within myself on the deeper dynamics going on that nobody seemed to be talking about.
Tell me about your first experience with MAID. If you can recall, when did it happen? And tell me what happened. Tell me that story.
Yeah, it was 2017, so it was early. What I saw was a man who wanted to feel safe, and MAID provided that. In counseling with him, I asked him to take me back to a time he did feel safe and sort of one with nature. And he recalled this story of when he was a kid, and he used to go to the corner store and he'd get a Joe Louis pastry and some milk, and he'd lie down in the grass in the back of the field. Then the staff came in, the nurses needed to do something, so I popped out. I went to the corner store across the street and I got a pastry, a Joe Louis. I brought it back for him. And his eyes just went wide as he broke it open, and his family arrived and he shared it with them. And he felt like a little boy. It was lovely. You know, before he was given the first injection, which puts you to sleep, I just said, lie down in the grass again, my friend. Right? Stare at the sky. And then within moments, he was gone. It was so unlike every other death I've been with. On the one hand, so beautiful, because everyone was saying, I love you, and saying thank you. And on the other hand, so strange, because here was a doctor causing death.
What did you do after that, and how did you feel?
I went back to my office quickly, and I locked the door, and I laid down on the couch and I wrestled. I was trying to figure out why am I distressed? I realized, through no fault of any individual, we live in a culture that is so spiritually impoverished. We do not understand death and the dying process. We certainly don't understand palliative care, which gets a bad rap and is really misunderstood, yet is so effective at calming the turbulence and making sure you have as smooth a trip as possible. So I felt impoverished. I felt like the whole nature of dying under medical care had radically changed. I didn't know if I could function in that system.
After this, you were with other people who had MAID.
Yeah, because I have a duty of care. I felt an obligation. I did not want to abandon them. And I wanted to understand better my own moral distress. I wanted to dissect it. And that meant not shrinking back, but entering into the dying process through MAID and discerning the existential dynamics at play that drive people to request it.
It's a profound thing to make this choice, and I talk about this in my research, and to make the choice and to pursue it with a lot of with purpose and intention, to do it well, to die well. I think what struck me most, and this has been my own experience since, is everybody expressed a sense of deep privilege and honor in being invited to accompany someone through an experience like MAID. It's an incredibly intimate experience. There's few things probably that any of us would experience in our lifetime that would be just more intimate, more sacred, if that's a word that someone would be comfortable using, than the decision to end their life and just the moment of that coming together. And everybody that I interviewed spoke about how at the end of the day, despite their own maybe internal struggles and wondering, is this the right thing to be doing or whatnot, at the end of the day, it does just come down to that moment when you're with a human being who is making this huge decision and being present to them and trying to comfort and accompany them in this huge part of their life journey. One of the things I think a lot about with MAID is this there's tension between, we do so much to sustain life in our culture. We go to such extreme measures to sustain life. So then if we do that, where does the intervention to take life, how do you balance those two things? So I think there's all kinds of places that it's a conflict, and at the end of the day, one just wants to make sure that one makes the best decisions about something so important as end of life care. I hope that there will always be people who will question MAID, and I hope that I will always have questions about it, because every time the legislation changes and there are wider parameters, I take a long time thinking about it. I don't know how I feel about every change that comes. I think that this is a really important, something that's very important that's happening in our society. I would never want us to get to a point where every one of us is sort of so on board that we're complacent about it.
I personally think that God's grace will receive us with more compassion than is sending us to the other side, and that God understands the spiritual poverty of our culture. Right? MAID is a reflection of very high rational intelligence and very low spiritual intelligence, and that is a predictable course in a culture such as ours. I remember a man who was really angry about dying. He was very successful, and he asked me to convince him why he shouldn't have MAID. I told him that's not my job. I'm there to support him in whatever he wants. But he insisted. So the words came, and I said, can you imagine that in your dying, you're teaching the ultimate lessons of life to your children? How to not turn away from suffering, how to be embedded in ambiguity, how to not control, how to allow a process that brought you into the world, under good medical care, to move you smoothly out of the world. Can you teach your children through just allowing them to anoint your body with their tears? Can you teach them how to be tender and compassionate and broken and not fix anything, but be with what is? Because what you're moving into, whatever you will become, is far beyond your control, let alone your understanding. Maybe we could prepare you for that now by allowing what is.